When I first moved to Kenya 2.5 years ago, I thought I knew what I will do. I thought I had a perfect plan laid out. I thought I had a good business strategy. I thought I had enough skills acquired over the past couple of years. What I also had, but I was just starting out on a very different foot, basically. So the business I chose when I first arrived here in Kenya was an e-commerce business. So we were trying to sell physical products, locally produced here in Kenya, and trying to simply sell them online because the factory we sourced the products from didn't have an online presence. So we thought it's a good idea. It made sense for us. We calculated everything roughly and we just went for it and tried it out. A couple of weeks later, after we set up everything, we created the entire online presence. We made our first couple of sales, but we were not making any money. So we actually were not profitable and we were running in the negatives. What then led us to just shutting down the operations and trying to venture into something else. And what I can tell you now from this experience is that simply the choice we made with an e-commerce business was just way too complex. So first, it's difficult enough to arrive in a new country, not knowing the system, not knowing the people, not really understanding the demand of the people, not really knowing what they actually want and what kind of pain points or problems they have. And then on top of it, to start an e-commerce business, what's quite complex to start, what's not as straightforward as different other business models. I used to manage many different e-commerce businesses in Europe, different European countries, in the States. So I was assisting with marketing, building the operations out, building the businesses out. So I knew how it works. What I realized from this experience is that even if I knew how it works, or even if I know how it works, it was just the wrong business to start because it's way too complex. There's just too many layers involved in an e-commerce business. So for instance, you need to source the product. If it's now in our case, we sourced it from Kenya, but still most of the case you will source it from the outside. So from a different or foreign country. So you have different challenges with shipping, with taxes, with tolls, with whatever is involved in getting the products into the country. Then you have to think about the shipping. Then you have to think about the marketing, how to sell, what to sell. So you need customer service. You have many different layers, and it's just a very complex business to start as the first one when moving to the African continent or even in general. So even if it can work, it was just too complex for me in this beginning phase. What I later then ventured in was business consulting and marketing consulting for established companies. And this was what I did before as well, what made me earn a living before. But I thought I wanted to do something locally on the ground, and that's why I tried to venture into the physical product business. So now when I compare the e-commerce business where I want to sell physical products compared to the business consulting and marketing consulting business, it's just clear for me, and now it's a clear decision that this consulting business was much simpler compared to the e-commerce business. It was much more complex, because here in this consulting business, the only thing I needed was the things I knew. I needed to learn some new strategies or like things, how they work here on the ground, and like figure out how to get clients here in Kenya locally. But it was still less complex because there were not other people involved. So it was just me trying to make sales, trying to get the clients in, and then delivering the service just myself, just to figure out how things are here on the ground. So, and again, it's also more profitable because you don't have any liabilities. You don't need to invest any money up front. You don't need to register a business, basically. You don't need many licenses. What is compared to the e-commerce business, the complete opposite, because to sell and run your operations locally, to source products and import products, you need all the licenses, you need the business registration, you need to have the work permit to actually operate here in the country. But for the consulting business, I could have just skipped all of these things in the beginning just to figure out how the market actually works. If this is the service or product, it doesn't make me money. Is it profitable? Is there any demand even? What I also didn't figure out in the beginning, but what I could simply start much faster with less hustle, less stress, and less time and money investment for sure. So what I learned from this experience is to start out very lean and very simple. Try to make it leaner and simpler, because I hear oftentimes people, they want to set up a manufacturing plant right from the get-go without even understanding the market properly, without even trying to maybe first import the product or maybe see if there's any demand or if this is an actual pain point of the local population, and then right away set up the plant or right away invest heavy heavily in construction, or invest heavily, or like invest money into getting an office, invest money into they just spend too much money in the first place to then figure out how everything works, how everything looks like, instead of maybe coming up with a simpler solution, for instance, for the same problem, So for instance, if you just, instead of putting up an entire manufacturing plant, you could also import the product in the first place, so you have less risk, you have less capital investment. Or to give you another example, what I've been working also with for a while now and consulting also a couple of clients in this space is the Airbnb business. Some people, they come to the African continent now. Many I know of are in Kenya or in Zanzibar or Tanzania or different other places there. And instead of just getting to know the market and try to start this business also quite lean to see what works, what doesn't work, if it's even profitable, just to get to know a feeling for the country, they start right away to purchase an apartment, purchase land, purchase anything, to then realize, oh, this might be the wrong location, or this might be not the best business for me, or this might doesn't work out for me, or I need too many licenses that I was not aware of. Instead of going in like this, now the new approach I have is just start lean with everything. And the same applies to this concept what I explained earlier. Instead of setting up the entire property, for instance, you could start very lean with an Airbnb business if you just start co-hosting, for example. So instead of building your own property or renting out your own property or purchasing it and investing into furniture, investing into the licenses, the company registration, maybe even a residency permit, what is also, everything there is costly, you can simply offer your service to already existing Airbnbs that where you see, for example, potential, and simply help them to make more money. You can optimize the listing. You can, for example, also go with pricing automations that you make them more revenue, that you increase the occupancy rate, that you improve the visibility of the listing, get more clients through the door, for example. And from there, you can already understand how this works, instead of building the entire property or purchasing where you can spend easily like 50K, 100K, even more depending where you build and if you want to purchase the land or whatever from the start. So this is a shift in perspective that has helped me now to see things much, much clearer. So instead of looking for, let's say, I know these things or I have this business idea, how can I make it work in the country? Look for a much simpler way, see if there's actually demand, figure out what people actually want, and just start as lean as possible. Because you don't need to, purchase 10 cars to start a transportation fleet. You don't need to start a manufacturing plant from day one, even if you don't have any plans how the market works. You can also just start with, first off, maybe offering your knowledge that you have as a service, or with the same business concept where you see the demand, just break it down into smaller and smaller pieces to see what is actually the leanest way to start this business and what is, again, much more profitable, and then focus on the high-end clients, for instance, as I gave with the Airbnb example or with my business consulting example. Then I was, for example, consulting companies that were owned by foreigners here in Kenya. Then in Uganda I had clients, but these ones were also like in the higher markets, so more high-end clients, because they had much more revenue, they had more profits, so they also were ready to spend more money on advisory, on team management, on making more money basically than like the smallest companies here that I could have worked with as well. But then again, you have small profit margins, you have a lot to do, and you need to do a lot of things, and this comes with a lot of headache as well. So I prefer to go with the people that come with a lot of investment to Kenya, or to go with clients, for example, that are well established, making a good amount of money. So this was simply easier, because I then again could work with less clients, make the same amount of money as if I would have consulted like 10 businesses or something. And the same thing applies, as I said, for the Airbnb business. Just break it down to smaller pieces. What could you offer that still has a lot of value, and where's a pain, where's a problem in the market, but what doesn't require you to invest a lot of money in the first place? Because then, for example, when we go back to the Airbnb case, then if you understand how it works here, if you are venturing your first time into business, or especially African business here, this helps you to get a feeling for everything. And from there, you can still then, if you make money, you can decide if you just onboard or take on more clients, for instance, you get more businesses or Airbnb properties you help with, or if you then start to build out your own, where you then have to register the company, get the licenses and everything. But try to think of a way that is very lean, very simple, and don't make the same mistake as I did, because as I said, like, I chose complexity, what cost me time and money and a lot of headache. But now, in the end of the day, I realized and understood that you could do similar business, just way less complex, much simpler, with even higher returns, with even more possibilities of growing the business quicker than with starting out with a very complex business model. I hope this helped you to gain a little bit of better perspective on what business to start here on the African continent, that you can avoid making the same mistake as I did and go with something that's far too complex and that has too many pieces you need to put together, and start with the same or similar business space. If you found that there's a pain point, just break it down simpler, make it more lean, and start with this and explore the market first off, that you can then start to scale this business. So let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear what kind of business ideas and thoughts you have for your first or for your African business, or what kind of business you do already here on the continent. And I would love to see what you guys do, and maybe there are some ideas I can also pour into your business. So I appreciate you watching, and I see you in the next video.